The way I see it, gold has essentially failed as hard money, and it's being held by central banks as a vague defense mechanism to prop up their fiat currencies in the likely event of an eventual run on the bank. Bitcoin could play a much different reserve role. First, let's be clear. Gold has not been used as actual money for transactions in over 300 years. Certainly in the time of the Medicis, starting 1252, the gold florin was actually the main unit of exchange for large transactions. This got copied and pasted into the ducat, 1254, the British noble, 1344, the French écu, 1377, the Spanish escudo, 1535, the French louis d'or, 1640, the British guinea, 1663, the U.S. gold eagle, 1795, and finally the French Napoleon, 1803. But starting in the mid-1800s, banknotes replaced actual gold coins. These banknotes were initially Bank of England pounds, U.S. state-chartered dollar bills, U.S. greenbacks starting in 1860, and then Federal Reserve-backed dollars starting in 1913. For almost 200 years, we have used gold-backed paper and not actual gold as money, and it has failed repeatedly. Greenbacks were issued in 1860 as legal tender with no official backing. The U.S. officially went on the gold standard in 1900, but off it in 1933 with EO 6102. The international redeemability ended in 1971. Britain went on it in 1816, off of it during the Napoleonic Wars, 1797 to 1821, off during WB1, and finally off in 1831. Similar patterns exist for France, Germany, etc. The problem is the idea of paper backed by gold sounds good, but the reality is it always fails. So if gold has failed as hard money, why are there still so many gold bugs? Clearly because people like the idea of hard money, the idea of gold, not actual gold. And to be fair, as a pure investment, gold has done quite well, starting back to 1971. Gold was $35 an ounce in 1971. It's now $2,600, up 75x. The SP 500 was $100, now it is $6,000, up 60x, with dividends about the same. So hard assets do well over time, but it's not accurate to call it money. Which brings us to the role as a reserve. The rough justification for a reserve is to use it as dry powder to sell to prop up the currency, dollar, euro, etc. But while the 200 billions of gold we hold might seem a lot, it's nothing relative to the size of our deficit. You don't prop up 36 trillion with $200 billion worth of anything. You could argue the entire concept of the gold reserve is outdated and pointless. But Bitcoin is different. Bitcoin actually has the properties needed to fulfill the qualities of a unit of exchange. It can be moved from A to B essentially instantly, with final confirmation within 1 hour. Various layer 2s, including Lightning, could scale it for mass transactions. Think Visa level. So stockpiling Bitcoin might make actual sense as a hedge against what I would say is inevitable, hyper-Bitcoinization. If this scenario comes to pass, and I think it will, Bitcoin will become the only global unit of exchange. Owning Bitcoin as a country will be a strategic imperative and the only way to marshal funds in case of an emergency. So the world governments should start stacking today.